Thick concrete walls and bars may prevent these criminals from escaping, but the violent spirit of many criminals is impossible to lock up. In these prisons, rules do not exist, and brutality is the order of the day. Backstabbing, fierce confrontations, and savage deaths cover the walls of this jungle with blood, where only the strongest manage to survive. Any prisoner knows that he must remain alert 24 hours a day, but on this occasion we will focus on a very particular case, that of one of the oldest and fiercest gangs that exist in United States prisons, the Mexican Mafia. Get ready to enter a maximum security prison and discover how these violent groups operate. In addition, we will learn about their activities and the way they recruit their members. But we warn you, as soon as you enter this new military force video, it will be impossible to leave. Here we go.
If he had no problem murdering a stranger, what makes you think he's going to have a problem murdering a rival gang member, you know? Peapod! Wait, one at a time, one at a time! Go, get out of here!
Around 1.5 million U.S. citizens are serving a prison sentence. That makes it the country with the largest prison population. Yet for anyone who isn't working or locked up in a penitentiary, life behind bars remains largely a mystery. The public feels safer with these criminals behind bars and only gets a glimpse inside these walls when there are riots, executions, or scandals. But surviving in these places can be much more complex than it seems, not only for the criminals, but also for the guards who are tasked with containing the violence.
Get up against the wall. Up front! Real.
Gentlemen, everyone's going to be strip searched one at a time. You understand?
The inmates are ingenious. Anytime we come up with a way to stop them, they evolve and find new and interesting ways to do stuff.
There are several criminal organizations of this type that have a presence in North American prisons, but in this video, we will focus on one of the oldest and most dangerous. We are talking about the Mexican Mafia, also known as LA-M, a group that was born in California prisons in the 1950s. As its name suggests, it is composed mainly of criminals with Mexican or Latino origins and is characterized by having a marked hierarchical structure and a strong code of loyalty among its members. Over time, its influence grew considerably and also reached the states of Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Nevada, and New York. Its initial purpose was to protect its members within penitentiaries, but it later expanded to control criminal activities both inside and outside of them. The gang is organized in a very similar way to an army, with strict ranks and orders that must be followed if they come from a superior. Those known as the carnales are the main leaders and have supreme authority. As we mentioned, the Mexican Mafia, despite having been born within the prison system, extended its influence beyond the bars and has managed to get involved in various illegal activities outside the prisons. These include drug trafficking, extortion, money laundering, and contract killings. Even thanks to their brutal fame, they offer protection to other gangs in exchange for interesting sums of money. However, they usually do not have to do much more than announce that they are in their custody. They know that no one would want to confront the Mexican Mafia. To earn their place in these areas of crime, their main card has been the use of extreme violence. This is how they were able to maintain control and discipline within their ranks, intimidating both other criminal organizations and the prisoners they live with.
Backup and medical.
Not even the guards can contain the fury of the letter M, one of the most well-known symbols associated with the Mexican Mafia. In addition, they often have tattoos that represent their affiliation and loyalty to the gang. This is often the first step to identify themselves and differentiate themselves from their enemies. The organization has relations of both alliance and rivalry with other groups. For example, they have a kind of coalition known as SUR, together with gangs of Latin origin with a presence in California, known as Sureños. They also maintain a link with the Aryan Brotherhood, made up of white prisoners, and the Sinaloa cartel. The latter is probably their most important ally, since it is one of the most bloodthirsty and powerful organizations in Mexico. On the other side of the criminal map, the IM has made great enemies, mainly with Nuestra Familia, another gang with members of Mexican origin from California. And the blacklist is joined by the Bloods and the Crips, gangs from Los Angeles with a greater African American influence. These groups fight for control within American prisons, carrying out brutal confrontations where they can even kill a rival with their fists. The life of gang members, especially those affiliated with the Mexican mafia, is extremely structured, dangerous, but above all, marked by violence. As we pointed out above, ranks are an important factor, but beyond leadership, each member has a specific role within the organization. A member of La MA can be a messenger, soldier, or in charge of security, among other tasks. What is clear is that each person knows perfectly what their role is and to whom they must report. The gangs control certain areas within the prisons that they call territories. These can include cell blocks, recreation areas, or dining rooms. The Mexican mafia, for example, controls the Latino inmates and makes sure that they provide respect to the organization. Likewise, even in prison, members are involved in criminal activities such as drug trafficking, smuggling of mobile phones and weapons. They also extort other prisoners and their families, demanding payment in exchange for access to a mattress, hygiene products, or simply to avoid cruel beatings. Violence is a common tool to maintain control of all these businesses, as well as the discipline of inmates, whether they are rivals or subordinates within the structure. Criminals must be willing to engage in brutal acts when ordered, whether to punish a member who has broken the rules or to intimidate others. Without a doubt, this violence is a common language among all the gangs present in prisons, and here an inmate who had intentions of forming his own gang makes it clear.
I decided I needed a family, a purpose. And so we went to the Aryan Brotherhood on that yard and said, hey man, we want to raise a flag and start our own family, a white pride family. The head there said, well, you know what? You're going to have to go to war with another race, and you might want to have your numbers up before you do that. So we did that.
Inmates must always be alert and prepared to defend themselves from attacks by rival gangs or to carry out orders from their leaders. Loyalty and compliance with the rules are vital for survival within the prison. Retaliation for disobedience or betrayal is extremely severe and can include beatings, stabbings, or even murder. These acts serve to send a clear message about the consequences of not following the rules. However, in exchange for loyalty, the Mexican mafia offers protection to its members and other affiliated prisoners. All they must do is respect the code of silence, which means not cooperating with authorities or revealing information about the organization's activities. There are two ways to earn a place in La MA. On the one hand, for those who do not want to participate in the gang, but need its services to be safe, they can pay with money or goods. In this way, they will have the necessary custody from the most brutal criminals and no one will want to approach them. The other alternative is to be part of the group as another member. However, for that option, the criminal must be willing to get his hands dirty with blood. Now, if we take into account that approximately half of the prison population is convicted of a violent crime, joining a gang to obtain different benefits seems to be a matter of survival. Let's look at it through the eyes of a former member. This is Manuel Medrano, who was part of the Mexican mafia in Arizona. The gang member was in and out of the Department of Corrections, Rehabilitation, and Re-entry in that American state for 20 years and served sentences for armed robbery and drug trafficking. In this matter, he remembers the stage of entering the prison criminal group and how that forced him to reach a place he never imagined.
Expectation that they will kill for the organization when the time comes. At the time, I think the count was 150 members total. We like to think about it as, we're the elite of the prisoner system. Originally, when I was made, I had not killed anybody yet, a high-ranking member took a liking to me, and so he pushed my, well, there was a couple of them, but they pushed my name through and I was voted on and I became a member. Within a few months, I did kill.
That was the baptism of fire that Medrano had to overcome to remain in the violent gang. His story refers to the treatment of newcomers in U.S. prisons, especially those who are identified as potential members of gangs like the Mexican Mafia. A specific process is followed with these inmates to determine if they are worthy of joining the ranks of the organization. However, their incorporation is neither automatic nor simple. It involves a series of evaluations, loyalty tests, and a gradual entry into gang life within the prison. The new inmates are quickly observed by the dominant members of La M. This process occurs almost immediately, and the first thing they look for is that the potential members are Latino, especially from those areas where the Mafia has influence. The high-ranking leaders analyze the behavior of the newcomer, his attitude, his criminal history, and whether he has tattoos or symbols that indicate affiliation with any gang. They also investigate whether he has a history of having cooperated with the police, since this would be a reason to exclude him or even attack him. Once selected, a member of the Mexican Mafia will approach the inmate to speak with him. This conversation may seem friendly, but it is actually a way to obtain information and evaluate his attitude and disposition. They will ask him where he comes from, if he has any previous connection with these types of organizations, and what his stance is on prison life. If all goes well, it will happen like in the case of Medrano, and he will be assigned a mission to test his courage and loyalty. The task can range from smuggling objects and acting as a courier to participating in acts of violence against other prisoners and murder. Completing it will demonstrate his willingness to follow orders without any regard for the consequences and his commitment to staining his hands with blood. As the former member tells it, carrying out these actions is not difficult when you find yourself in hell.
You know what I mean? When you're just sitting in there day to day feeling like you're warehoused, I think it takes some of the humanity away from you as well. You just fall in line with what's going on. And so the killing, the drugs, all this stuff just becomes normal. It's not hard to become a murderer. It's not hard to kill.
The rawness of this testimony brings us a little closer to the mind of a criminal who is willing to do anything, convinced that he can take his criminal life one step further from inside the prisons. Once that point is reached, the probationary period is over for the aspiring Mexican Mafia members. Now it is time for their formal integration. After having handled the pressure of orders and fulfilling their responsibilities without question or showing signs of fear and doubt, the new inmates are invited to officially join the gang. This process often includes a ceremony or an oath of loyalty, where the new member promises fidelity to the organization and agrees to follow all its rules and codes. At that time, a mentor may also be assigned, a more experienced person within the structure who will guide the newcomer during the first days or weeks. This person will teach him the rules and violent traditions of La M, and will make sure that he is always prepared for the moment of the battle to the death against a rival group. However, even after being accepted, the new member is constantly monitored by the gang leaders. Any display of disloyalty, insubordination, or lack of respect can result in violent expulsion. A newcomer may be rejected or even attacked if he is found to have a history of cooperation with authorities, if he has been an informant, or if he has shown weakness in carrying out assigned tasks. This was not the case for Manuel Medrano during his years in prison, as like all his fellow Mafia members, he looked forward to the moment of a confrontation with rival gangs.
A lot of the times, the guards will make a mistake and open the doors on accident, and so you always have to be ready for that. You're up all day waiting for that, basically. You're always supposed to be ready for war.
Now, beyond his time as another wild and brutal member of the Mexican Mafia, Medrano decided to leave that world of violence and become an informant for the United States government. Having been on the other side, he was aware that his choice could cost him his life if he was caught, but he preferred to follow his instincts and take the risk. Now, his story is known for having provided valuable information about the operations of the criminal organization, both inside and outside of prisons. Likewise, he was a key witness in several federal trials against other members of the gang. Among the stories about his experiences and the behavior of the criminal gang, he explained that the Mexican mafia generally preferred to keep its members behind bars because of the great persecution that existed abroad.
There's not a lot of members on the street. We don't usually make it that long because there's a whole task force that's established for the prison gang. It was called the Violent Street Gang Task Force. It was, I believe, 2 detectives from the Phoenix PD. They had members from the FBI, from every organization you could think of. And so those were the ones that were basically on us all the time. It was tough. They would follow me everywhere. I'd walk in restaurants and they'd be sitting and they're eating.
The authorities followed the trails of violence left by the gang members, which allowed the members of DlE5 to fall prey to large operations. This explains how the main leaders, the carnales, exercised their power of control from within the penitentiaries over the other members. These were intensely persecuted outside, but they did not care about being caught. In fact, they feel comfortable in that environment. In short, we have discovered how the violence used by the Mexican mafia has become its main tool to maintain control over other organizations. The life of Latino gang members in the United States prisons is as dangerous as it is rigorous and hierarchical, with constant pressure for loyalty, brutality, and full of fear. The confrontations have no limits other than the death of a rival, and many times not even the prison guards can prevent these bloody endings. Now, after knowing the story from the inside, the time has come to say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us to discover the wild world behind bars. We look forward to seeing you again in our next video.